It's here, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting closer to football season, even though it's in mid May. But hey, the schedules got released and we know who we're playing. I mean, we already knew that prior to when the schedule was coming out. But now we know when we're playing them. And boy, oh boy, when everyone said that the Steelers have one of the hardest schedules in the league, they weren't kidding around. What's going on, everybody? I am Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link is down in the box below. I know this is premiering on Sunday, or excuse me, I know this is premiering on Monday, but I'm actually recording this on Friday morning now that I have time to look at the schedule initially and record this video. So this is being recorded on Friday, but it is premiering on Monday. So this is my 2024 schedule prediction for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I make two schedule predictions a year for the Steelers. The first one I make is just looking at the schedule for the first time and just making my predictions based off of that. My final schedule prediction is before preseason starts. A week or so before preseason begins. So those are my two schedule predictions. And looking at this schedule right here, man, I can tell you this schedule is really challenging. And it's kind of unfair, in my opinion, too. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for challenges and I'm all for rising up to challenges. That's who I am. But I mean, when you take a look at this schedule, okay, first of all, I'm not complaining that we got to play 9 road games this year. Every AFC team has to play 9 road games this year. But when 3 out of your first 4 are on the road, and as a matter of fact, 4 of the first 6 are on the road, that's kind of a tough way to start the season off right there. Then down the final phases. To start off December, we have another stretch where 3 out of 4 games are on the road. And then the final two games on the schedule are at home, yes, but from December 15th until Christmas, 10 days, we play 3 games in 10 days. That's just insane. It reminds me of back in 2020 when we had that scheduling reconflict because of, COVID issues, and we got screwed out of our bye week. That's what this reminds me of. Number 2 is that after both Ravens games this year, our next game is only on 4 days rest. And unlike last year where we had 2 Thursday night games and the game after the game after the Sunday game following up to that were home games, only one of them are a home game. And on top of that, one of them is against a division rival and the other is against the defending Super Bowl champions. So, after both Ravens games, we're only on 4 days rest. This is why I keep saying time and time again, the NFL has to do something about these Thursday night games. I have never been a fan of Thursday night games. Thanksgiving Day games I like. I love Thanksgiving football. But that should be it. And I'm also not a fan of Christmas games either. Like, I get it. If Christmas falls on a weekend and you want Christmas games, fine. I understand that if it's on a weekend. But here's the thing. Christmas is on a Wednesday this year. And we only have 4 days to prepare to play the defending champions on Christmas Day. That's just ridiculous. So I can already tell you guys right off the bat here, I'm not streaming the game on Christmas for a couple reasons. Number one, it's Christmas, for God's sake. I want to spend time with my family. I want to spend time with my girlfriend's family. That's what I'm going to be doing on Christmas Day. So there you go right there. My post game for that game may be late anyway, too. So there's reason number 1. And reason number 2, the game's on Netflix. Why should I have to pay to watch my team play one game? That's just ridiculous. So no, I ain't streaming the game on Christmas, and I may not even watch the game on Christmas anyway. I can't, I mean, I won't go as far as say that I hate Christmas games. I just don't like them. Like I said, if Christmas was on a weekend and we played on Christmas, fine. I get that. But Christmas is on a Wednesday this year. But of course, Roger Goodell has to milk out every single dollar that he possibly can with the NFL because that's just what he's all about. And then finally, we have a week 9 bye, which I love. I think week 9 is the perfect week to have a bye week. Weeks between 8 through 10, I think, is the perfect time to have a bye week. And while I do love that we have a week 9 bye, all our divisional games are after the bye week. That's right. We do not play a single divisional game until after the bye week. And our first divisional game starts a stretch of 4 straight divisional games. So there you go right there. Like I said at the beginning, I'm all for a challenge. I'm all for rising up to the challenge. But this scheduling job that the NFL did for us, I think is completely ridiculous and, in my opinion, unfair. Because we hardly have any time to prepare for big games after big games themselves. So that's just my little rant right there. I know there's nothing I can do about it, but I'm voicing my opinion. This schedule is completely unfair for us. Yes, I know I knew we were going to have one of the hardest schedules. I think we have the 3rd hardest schedule this year in terms of opponents that we play. But in terms of structure of how the schedule is, this has to be the hardest by far and the most unfair by far. But anyway, enough of that. I mean, like I said, we got all our divisional games after the week 9 bye. And as if that wasn't tough enough, we got 2 hard games sprinkled in as well against the defending champions and a playoff favorite as well. So there you go right there. But enough of the rant. I'm just going to suck it up, deal with it, and let's just get on with it. So I got the schedule pulled up, and down below you'll see the ticker, and you'll see the matchups there below. Let's get on to it. This is my 2024 initial schedule prediction for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's get on to it. So we start off week 1, September 8th, and we start the season off in Atlanta to play the Falcons. I kind of figured, we'd play the Falcons early in the season, but, there were rumors going on that we play in week 1. And it's understandable. I mean, we have their old head coach, Arthur Smith, as our offensive coordinator now. So, I mean, this is a revenge game for the Falcons right here. They got a new OC themselves in Zach Robinson, who's a guy that I wanted for us to be OC. Quite frankly, head coach, to be honest with you. Raheem Morris, they got as a defensive coordinator. And, of course, the biggest news they got was they got Kirk Cousins in the offseason. So the Falcons, they did some improvements in this offseason, and they look like a different team altogether. So I don't expect this to be the same Falcons team that was just completely predictable last year. I expect them to take a little bit of a step forward. So here's the thing with this matchup right here. The Falcons know Arthur Smith, but 2 things can be true at the same time. Arthur Smith also knows the Falcons. So I really don't think either team has an advantage here. Now, here's where I think a big advantage comes in, and it works in our favor, to be honest with you. While, yes, this is a road game, and while, yes, it is in Atlanta, the fact is the Falcons have never really had good home field advantage. Every time in my fandom the Steelers have had to go to Atlanta, the fans have invaded that stadium. And guess what, guys? I expect that to be the case again. Steeler fans are going to travel down to Atlanta. I expect them to take over that stadium. And I think even though it is a road game, it's a glorified home game for us. So maybe, yeah, we do have 9 home games after all this year. So there you go right there. But again, I'm not sleeping on Atlanta. They look like an improved team. The Falcons, they're going to battle us hard because they do know Arthur Smith's offense. But like I said, two things can be true at the same time. Arthur Smith also knows the Falcons. So I'm actually going to say we get the job done over Atlanta to start the season off 1-0. And I think that, I think the offense can come through here. I think that they're going to get enough done. I think the defense can come through here. I just don't trust Kirk Cousins when it comes to playing teams that finish above 500. So I'm going to say that we start the season off 1-0, getting it done over Atlanta. Then week 2, a 4:25 Eastern time game. We are at the Denver Broncos on Sunday, September 15th. Again, I kind of figured we'd play Denver early in the season because we all know the storyline right there. Russell Wilson going up against his former head coach and his former team. Broncos still have Sean Payton as their head coach. Now, the Broncos, I think Denver is in line to be one of the worst teams this year because they don't have Russell Wilson anymore. They're still strong defensively, sure, but I don't know. I just don't know if I can fully trust Denver's defense, and I don't really know what they plan on doing at quarterback. Even though Sean Payton does have a good offensive mind, I really just don't know what Denver's going to be doing offensively. Now, the thing about the Broncos is that when the Steelers go to Denver, that's another house of horrors for us right there. The Steelers have never really played well in Denver. Even when the Broncos have been bad over the course of the last 5-6 years or so, we've just never had good luck in Denver. I think the last time that at least I can remember that the Steelers have beaten the Broncos in Denver was 2009 on a Monday Night Football game. I don't know if that was the most recent time we won in Denver, but that's the last time I remember that the Steelers won in Denver. Correct. Feel free to correct me in the comments below. But overall, I just think that we're a better structured team than the Broncos are. And again, there's an advantage for us right here. Russell Wilson, I think he knows Sean Payton very well. And I don't really know if Sean Payton knows Russell Wilson all that well, seeing that I should say Russell Wilson knows the Broncos and he knows how that team is. But I don't know if Sean Payton fully knows Russell Wilson, seeing that he was only his coach for a year. And you got to figure Russ is going to play with ice in his veins, seeing that how he got benched by Sean Payton towards the end of last season. He's going to want revenge for that. So even though we do have trouble in Denver playing the Broncos, I'm going to say we start the season off 2-0 and get the job done over the Broncos. A revenge game right here for Russell Wilson right here. Even though it's technically not a primetime game for us. Steelers have 4 primetime games this year, by the way. Even though it's technically not a primetime game, I chop it down to one, seeing it that it is a 4:25 Eastern time game because we're on the West Coast and Denver's a couple hours behind us. So if you want to call it a primetime game, go ahead, but it's probably going to be on CBS or whatever during a late game, where another good game is going to be on Fox or another good game is going to be on CBS. But regardless, I have us going to 2-0 and beating the Denver Broncos. Then week 3, we have our home opener on Sunday, September 22nd, 1 o'clock kickoff time as the Los Angeles Chargers come to town. So Jim Harbaugh, new head coach in town for the Chargers. I think that was a smart hire by him. Anyone's an upgrade over Brandon Staley. And while the Chargers, I'm certainly not underestimating them, they did lose a lot of firepower on their offense in the offseason. But, I mean, Justin Herbert, I think he's still more than a capable quarterback to win them games. But regardless of what kind of a quarterback that you are, you're not going to win a whole lot of games when you're depleted offensively and some of your best guys were let go. The Chargers defensively, they're not a strong defensive team, but they can manage it by. And I think that with Russell Wilson having a little bit of experience playing that AFC West, I think that can come through right here. And the Steelers, aside from last year, generally do very well in home openers. So I'm going to say we get to 3-0 and get the job done over the Chargers here for right now. even though I do have a little bit of suspicion that the Chargers can win this game because the last 2 times the Chargers have come to Pittsburgh, they've beaten us. But, all streaks have to come to an end eventually. But I'm going to say we get the job done over the Chargers to improve to 3-0. Then week 4, we are at the Indianapolis Colts on September 29th for a 1 o'clock kickoff time game. This was a tricky one right here because Anthony Richardson, you figure that he's going to be back. When we played the Colts towards the end of last season, Anthony Richardson was out and Gardner Minshew ripped us a new asshole. And Indy's defense is still very strong. They did upgrade on their defense over the offseason. So this one was really tricky for me to decide right here because I think Indy's defense is strong enough to be able to stop our offense right here. And you got to figure at this point, our offense is going to start to become a little more predictable. And I really, the Steelers, they do have a very bad reputation of playing against mobile quarterbacks, and Anthony Richardson is definitely that type of quarterback. So this is going to be a big test for the Steelers. History is on our side with this one, as the Steelers have historically dominated the Colts all time, but just what I saw last year, the Steelers up 13-0 at one point, and they allowed 30 unanswered points. I don't know. That's why this one's tricky for me. So I think this is where we take our first loss of the season, actually. I think Indy beats us again, and I think that just overall, the Steelers just kind of fall off their horse a little bit right here, no pun intended. But yeah, I think this is our first loss of the year to fall to 3-1. And then week 5, we come back home on October 6th for a Sunday night football game against the Dallas Cowboys. Classic rivalry right here between the Steelers and the Cowboys. Two franchises have met 3 times in the Super Bowl. Steelers winning 2 out of those 3. We beat them, of course, in 1975 and 1978. And then Neil O'Donnell gift wrapped at Dallas a Super Bowl in 1995. So there you go right there. The Cowboys, the last time they came to Pittsburgh, they gave us a brutal defeat. A game that I was at, by the way, and it still hurts to this day to talk about it, wherein Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott's rookie season, the Steelers defense couldn't stop a nosebleed and wasted a phenomenal outing by Big Ben and the offense as they gave up 3 rushing touchdowns to Ezekiel Elliott, and the Cowboys walked away with a 35-30 victory over the Steelers. Hopefully, that won't be the case this time, as the Cowboys, they're a very tough defensive team. They do have firepower on offense to be a top offensive team, but I think really Dallas's bread and butter does come with their defense. So I think this really won't be a high-scoring defensive offensive shootout, but I think it's going to be a little bit more low-scoring, kind of like in the neighborhood of about maybe 27-24 type of game, in my opinion. But yeah, Dak Prescott, he generally does do well in Sunday Night Football. And Russell Wilson has a good track record of playing on Sunday Night Football as well. I mean, Russell Wilson has had some pretty good games against the Cowboys throughout his career. But I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if I can fully trust Russell Wilson and this offense going up against that strong of a Dallas defense right there. Not to say that I don't think that we can beat the Cowboys, because I do like us defensively, and I really do think that our defense is going to show up in this game. But I hate to say it, I think the Cowboys beat us right here to fall to 3-2. I don't know. I just think the Cowboys have a little bit more going for them in this game. I mean, like I said, this is just my initial prediction. Things definitely might change as the months go by leading up to the preseason. But for right now, I'm saying the Cowboys beat us to fall to 3-2. Then week 7, we are at week 6 rather, we are at the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, want to call it a primetime game? Go ahead, but it's a 4:05 kickoff time game in Vegas. This is another, well, going to the Raiders Stadium, wherever they may be in Oakland or LA, and I guess now Vegas. That's always another tough place where the Steelers struggle at. We did beat the Raiders last year in Vegas, but that was the first time that the Steelers have beaten the Raiders at their stadium since 1995. So the Steelers do have trouble all time against the Raiders at their venue. And it doesn't help either that I think the Raiders just look like a better team this year because I think they may have a little bit more confidence at quarterback and they do have a little bit more firepower playing for Antonio Pierce. I think he got named the Raiders permanent head coach. I could be mistaken. Please correct me down in the comments below if I mistook that. But either way, I would not sleep on the Raiders at all because Josh Jacobs definitely the Raiders, they, for whatever reason, they just always play us tough. You know, this is another classic rivalry right here. Back in the 70s, the Steelers and Raiders used to have a huge rivalry back in the 70s. So, yeah, I mean, the Raiders, they're just another team that's just always given us headaches over the years. But I actually think that we come away and beat them and improve to 4-2. Why? Look at last year. That was Kenny Pickett's vintage moment right there against the Raiders. If the Raiders can lead a game, can allow a game-winning touch, can allow Kenny Pickett to essentially have the best game of his career against them, no doubt in my mind they can let a 35-year-old Russell Wilson have a solid game against them too. The Raiders' offense may be a little bit better, but still, I just don't trust that defense. And if the offense is to have a breakout game, I think this might be the week to do it. Because after all, the Raiders, they don't have a strong pass defense. I definitely see this as a game where Russell Wilson's going to come out slinging it and Arthur Smith is going to make adjustments to the offense. I think we come away and get the job done over the Raiders to improve to 4-2. Then, week 7, we come back home to play the New York Jets, Sunday Night Football. And right off the bat, it's Russell Wilson against Aaron Rodgers, one of the top quarterback rivalries in the NFC from about 2014 to 2020. These two have had some phenomenal matchups with each other. Of course, assuming Aaron Rodgers is healthy for this game, because we all know what happened with him to start off last season. But you got to figure Aaron Rodgers is going to be healthy in this game. So the Jets, even though they did finish in third last year, I definitely would not sleep on them because that defense they have is still very stout. And they carried a Zach Wilson-led offense throughout much of the season. And the Jets lost a lot of games that they probably could have won if Aaron Rodgers was healthy. That just seems to be typical Aaron Rodgers luck. He balls out, the defense lets him down. But Aaron Rodgers is out for pretty much the whole season last year. And go figure, his defense keeps his team in the game when he's not playing. That's just typical bad luck Aaron Rodgers right there. You know, but the Jets, I mean, I definitely would not sleep on them. They can probably beat us at our own game right here because they do run the ball efficiently as well. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge for this offensive line right here. O-line, we fixed it up greatly in the draft and in the offseason. This is their time to shine right here. This is one of the best. This is one of the stingiest defenses in the league. It's going to be a huge test. And I think that we come away and get the job done over the Jets to improve to 5-2. Why is that? Because, well, Aaron Rodgers may be healthy for this game, and he may be the better overall quarterback between him and Russell Wilson. But I think with overall offense, I think the Steelers are better. If the Steelers just run the ball here, they drain the clock, and they tire out the defense, then Russ can start cooking, and then we can tire out their secondary even more. Okay? I think we have what it takes to beat the Jets. I do think the Jets are definitely going to give us a hard time because remember, the last time we played the Jets, Mitch Trubisky was in the game. He got benched because he was sucking up the joint, and in came rookie Kenny Pickett, who did throw 3 interceptions against the Jets, but I can't, even though I'm done defending Kenny Pickett, any Steeler fan who sat down and watched that game knew that only one of those picks was on Kenny Pickett. Okay. But I think they're going to have a more experienced quarterback coming in this game. They're going to be caught off guard with the fact that the Steelers can run the ball too, especially now who we have at OC. And I think the defense is going to come through right here because I think we can stop the run right here. So I think that we come away, get the job done over the Jets to improve to 5-2. Then week 8, we have the other New York team coming on in for a Monday Night Football game. New York Giants come on October 28th for a Monday Night Football game. I don't know why we always have a primetime game with the Giants. I think like 4 out of the last 5 times we played the Giants, they've been primetime games. So I don't know why we always seem to have a primetime game with the Giants. I know to start off 2020, we had a Monday night game with the Giants. So, yeah, why do we always have primetime games with the Giants? I don't know. The Giants have a lot of primetime games this year, too. I mean, what's the pleasure in that? Why do people want to sit back and watch Daniel Jones at QB and Brian Dable? I don't know. Probably just because the Giants are in the largest market in the United States. But whatever. We got the New York Giants Monday Night Football game, October 28th. And I'm just going to say I think we get the win right here too. Why? Daniel Jones fumbles the ball a lot. Daniel Jones commits a lot of turnovers. Our defense has really stood up in that department with causing turnovers in recent years. I think all we have to do for this one is make Daniel Jones make poor decisions with the football, get pressure on him because the Giants O-line, is still very weak. And I think that we win the turnover battle here, set up not even long fields, but even short fields for the offense. You don't really got to do a whole lot because the Giants defense is going to be caught off guard. The Giants do have a little bit of a tough defense, but their offense is very inconsistent, especially now that Saquon Barkley's gone. I do think that we can get the job done over the Giants here to improve to 6-2. This is one of our easier games to predict right here. I just don't really know what to make of the Giants. So I think we improve to 6-2. Daniel Jones, by the way, has one of the worst track records of playing in primetime, and the Steelers have one of the best track records of playing home Monday Night Football games. I'm saying we get the job done over the Giants to improve to 6-2. Then, as I said at the beginning, week 9 is our bye week. That would put us at 6-2 at the bye. Very strong record, but buckle up, folks. This is where the toughest part of our schedule comes in. And it's really good that I'm predicting we get off to a fast start to the season because these early wins are going to be crucial for us as far as playoff positioning goes. So, first game after the bye week is week 10. On November 10th, we are at the Washington Commanders. As Washington, they may be a little bit of a sleeper team this year. I don't know what they plan on doing at quarterback this year. If they plan on having Sam Howell start, if they have Sam Howell still going or whatever. I don't even know if they still have Sam Howell, to be completely honest with you. But, overall, I expect Jaden Daniels to start this game for Washington if they're that serious about him being the franchise guy for him. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of Washington for this year. I think Dan Quinn can be a good head coach for him. I think he's an upgrade, honestly, over Ron Rivera. I was never a big fan of Ron Rivera. But, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't sleep on Washington. I mean, after all, they were the first team to beat us in 2020. So there you go right there. That's just a reason right there to not sleep on them right there. Washington's defense is atrocious, and I do expect the offense to have a good game right here. But offensively, I think this could be a shootout for all the wrong reasons right here because I think this has the makings of being a trap game for the Steelers. These are types of games that the Steelers lose all the time if you're a longtime Steeler fan. You know what I mean with that. But yeah, even though this game is 50-50 for me, I think we get the job done over Washington. Coming off the bye, we're fully rested. Yeah, it's a road game, but I think with us having that extra rest factor right there, I think that's going to serve as an advantage for us. And I think that our defense is going to be able to make life rough for a potential rookie quarterback. Mike Tomlin, for as much crap that I give him, he does have a really good track record of playing of when the Steelers go up against rookie quarterbacks. So I'm going to say we get the job done over Washington to improve to 7-2. Now, the hardest part of the schedule is right now. Week 11, November 17th, we return home to play the Baltimore Ravens. A stretch that begins a stretch of 4 straight divisional games. I am not kidding. Like I said in the beginning, 4 straight divisional games. And it starts off against the Baltimore Ravens, 1 o'clock Eastern time game in Pittsburgh. So the Ravens, obviously Lamar Jackson won his second MVP. Ravens still have one of the best defenses in the league. They have possibly the best run offense in the league. They're very physical up front. They did get a little weaker in the offseason, in my opinion, as they did lose some firepower at receivers. They lost Geno Stone. We have one of their old linebackers in Patrick Queen, but they still have Roquan Smith, and they did draft very well as well. So, yeah, the Ravens, they did get a little bit weaker, in my opinion, but still, at the end of the day, it's Steelers-Ravens. You never take these guys lightly. We did sweep the Ravens, and we are 7-1 in the last 8 against Baltimore, so we've definitely had their number as of late. But we beat the Ravens in Pittsburgh last year because the Ravens had several chances to win that game, and all Kenny Pickett had to do was just do the bare minimum and be a game manager and just not screw up, which is what happened. And then we won week 18 against them because the Ravens had nothing else to play for at that point. They had the number 1 seed locked up. They had the North clinched. They had nothing else to play for. It was just a throwaway game for them, and we beat them in Baltimore, and we were fighting for our playoff life. So, I mean, yes, I will always cherish a win over the Ravens because I freaking hate that team. Those of you that know me, you know how I feel about the Ravens. So I'll always cherish a win, but those 2 wins felt very empty against them last year. And like I said, Baltimore did get weaker in the offseason, in my opinion, but I still expect them to come to Pittsburgh and give us a tough time. Another factor here, this has been a very road-dominated series as of late. The Ravens, they have played us very well in Pittsburgh as of late, and we've played them especially better in Baltimore as of late. So for that reason, I'm going to say the Ravens actually beat us here to fall to 7-3. That ends our winning streak right there. Baltimore beats us. We're 7-3. Then it don't get easier. Remember what I said after both Ravens games at the beginning of the video? After both Ravens games, we're only on 4 days rest. As 4 days later, on November 21st, on a Thursday nighter, we head up to Cleveland to play the Browns in Cleveland. Last year, we had 2 Thursday night games, but at least with the Thursday night games, also said at the beginning of the video, at least with the 2 Thursday night games last year, the Thursday night games were at home following a home game from there. This time we're on the road, so that's a big disadvantage for us. Now, granted, Cleveland's only 2 hours away from Pittsburgh. It's not like we got to worry about jet lag. It's not like we got to worry about a lengthy trip. It's just a short car ride or a bus ride, or whatever you want to call it, from Pittsburgh to Cleveland. So at least it's that. But still, going to Cleveland to play the Browns, who were in the playoffs last year, who are probably going to have Deshaun Watson. I mean, not that I'm afraid of Deshaun Watson. He's played miserable against the Steelers throughout his career. But Nick Chubb most likely could play in this game. I've heard rumors that he could miss a big chunk of this season as well. But you figure Nick Chubb could be playing in this game. And the Browns defense is still tough. And the Browns are one of the best home teams in football. I don't know how Russell Wilson is going to fare against that tough Cleveland defense right there. This is definitely not, I mean, both Browns games, in my opinion, are not going to be high-scoring games whatsoever. It's going to be old school, classic 70s, 80s type of football, low-scoring defensive games. Who blinks first on defense? I think both Browns games this year are going to be in the neighborhood of about 17-14. So, I think that the Browns beat us in Cleveland to fall to 7-4. I just don't know if this team is mentally ready yet for short weeks, at least at this point, coming off the first time that they're going to do it. So I think the Browns beat us to fall to 7-4. So 2 straight L's. Very next week, we stay in Ohio, but we head on down south to play the Cincinnati Bengals to start off December. This is on December 1st. So we're at Cincinnati to play the Bengals on December 1st. Now, yes, this is a road game as well, but I think there are 2 big advantages for us in this one. Number one, if you're a longtime Steeler fan like I am, you would know the Steelers always play well in Cincinnati. We always play well in Cincinnati. The fans travel well there. Big Ben in his career, he only lost, I think, 3 games total in Cincinnati throughout his career. Not that, obviously, Big Ben's not our quarterback for this game, okay? But you get it. I'm just making a point. Big Ben only lost to the Bengals 3 times in Cincinnati his entire career. And secondly, it is a road game. But the previous game was a Thursday nighter. We have 10 days rest. Generally, I give the advantage to the team in that situation that played on the Thursday game because they have extra rest. So yes, it is a very tough game, but I think we have 2 big advantages right there. Joe Burrow, I expect him to play in this game as he basically missed more than half of last year with injuries. And a healthy Joe Burrow is very dangerous with this Bengals team. But overall, I think we're starting to play the Bengals a lot better again. It definitely does feel like a rivalry with them now. In the Big Ben era, it was no contest. As I want to thank the Bengals for helping giving the Steelers 2 wins most years. But now it starts to feel like a rivalry now, you know? But yeah, I do like that we're off a 10 days rest and we head on down to Cincinnati to stay in Ohio. So it's not like we really have to go anywhere. We're staying in Ohio too. Those are 2 big advantages for us. I don't know if Burrow's going to be healthy in this game, like I said, but I do expect him to play in this game. But I'm going to say we actually beat the Bengals here to improve to 8-4. I don't see us dropping 3 straight divisional games. This is definitely going to be a get-it-right game for the Steelers here. I think that the offense will get somewhat of a rhythm going because the Bengals do have a weak defense against the pass. Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan's OC debut, they allowed a 400-yard game for the Steelers. If they can do that against a quarterback like against Kenny Pickett, no doubt that they can allow something big against Russell Wilson. So I'm going to say we get the job done over the Bengals to improve to 8-4. Then, December 8th, we return home to play the Cleveland Browns on December 8th, 1 o'clock kickoff time in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to say we beat the Browns here to improve to 9-4. I don't see us getting swept by any divisional opponent this year. Plus, you guys know this, we always beat the Browns in Pittsburgh. The only 2 times that the Browns have beaten us in Pittsburgh in my Steelers fandom was the 03 NFL season and the wild card game from 2020. That's it. Those are the only 2 times the Browns have beaten us in Pittsburgh in my entire fandom. We always beat these guys in Pittsburgh. I don't see us getting swept by them. Like I said earlier in the first matchup, I think the Browns get us on Thursday night. The Steelers are going to want that win back real badly. Deshaun Watson has never played well against the Steelers, let alone in Pittsburgh. That's just another big disadvantage that the Browns have going into this game. I think we get the Browns to go to 9-4. And then going from a place where we always beat an opponent, going now to a place where we always lose. Week 15. Want to call this a primetime game? Go ahead. It's a 4:25 Eastern time game. The Steelers head from one side of Pennsylvania to the other as we take on the Philadelphia Eagles. So this, in my opinion, is our second toughest game on the schedule, as I'll get to the obvious toughest one in just a couple of minutes. But the reason that I say that this is the second toughest game on our schedule is because of one simple fact. Okay? You guys know when the last time the Steelers won in Philadelphia was? Well, I'll tell you. It was back when gas prices were a lot cheaper than what they are now. The Beatles were the number one grossing artist in the world. Lyndon B. Johnson was being reinaugurated as president, and my parents were both 1 year old. All the way back in 1965. I am not kidding. 1965, the last time that the Steelers won in Philadelphia. Even in our Super Bowl years, we couldn't beat them in Philly. The Steel Curtain never won in Philly. The 05 team, we didn't play the Eagles that season, but the 08 team had to go to Philadelphia, and they had one of the worst statistical games in Steeler history in that game in a 15-6 loss. Fast forward 8 years later with the Killer Bees at their peak, in my opinion, and the Steelers got thrashed by a rookie Carson Wentz-led Eagles offense 34-3. And of course, the most recent time that we went to Philly was 2022, where Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown dropped their asses on us in a shellacking in Philadelphia. We never play well in Philadelphia. Never. This is our house of horrors right here. It may be in Pennsylvania, but in Philadelphia, we never win. Kind of reminds me of when the Penguins went 15 consecutive years without beating the Flyers in Philadelphia. They called it the Philly flu. All right? From 1974 to 1989, the Penguins went winless in Philadelphia playing the Flyers. 59 years it's been that the Steelers have won in Philadelphia. That's my biggest reason that this alone is the toughest game on our schedule. Then you factor in that the Eagles also have a new offensive coordinator. They have a new defensive coordinator. They extended Jalen Brown, or A.J. Brown, rather, and they extended Smith as well. They added Saquon Barkley, and they added to their already loaded defense. The Eagles had a big downfall from last year's hot start, sure, but this is still a heavy, heavy favorite in the NFC to go back to the Super Bowl and much less make the playoffs, and it's very easy for them to recapture the NFC East. That's why this is the second toughest game on the schedule, in my opinion, right here. And guys, I'm sorry. Until we beat the Eagles in Philly, I'm saying we lose this game. 9-5. I don't know what it is. I don't know why we never play well in Philly. Sure, Russell Wilson has won in Philly. I think literally every time Russell Wilson has played the Eagles in Philly throughout his career, Russell Wilson's team has won. But it negates that with the Steelers not being able to win in Philly. So Russell Wilson, you're our last hope for getting that elusive W in Philly. But the fact remains, every time we go to Philly, until we beat the Eagles in Philly, I'm saying that's a loss every single time. 9-5. Then, after that, we stay on the road, head on south a little bit. Again, a short week, as 6 days later, on Saturday, December 21st, the second game in the last 6 days of this stretch where we play from December 15th to Christmas, we play 3 games. We're at the Ravens on a Saturday night. Now, I do think we come away with the win here because while I think the Ravens beat us in Pittsburgh because they generally play us tougher in Pittsburgh and Baltimore, it goes the same for us. The Steelers since 2017 are 6-1 again, we're 6-1 against the Ravens in Baltimore since 2017. And I expect that to continue. Why? Because, like I said, We have had the Ravens number in Baltimore. They're a little bit weaker offensively, and I think our defense can take advantage of that. And I just don't see how this team is going to get swept by the Ravens. So, yes, while I do think this is a tough game, we are on a shortened week. At least it's not like a 4 days rest. It is 6 days. I still think it's enough time for us to get prepared against the Ravens, but still, I think we get the job done over them to improve to 10-5. Now, by far the toughest game on the schedule, Christmas Day. We return home 4 days later on Christmas Day to play the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas Day, 1 o'clock kickoff time Eastern. Like I said at the beginning, I am not a fan of Christmas Day games because I just want to spend time with my family. Now that I have, now that me and my girlfriend are getting more serious with each other, I'm going to spend time a lot. I'm going to spend time with her family on Christmas Day as well. A lot of traveling. And even if I wanted to sit down and watch the game, if I had nothing to do on Christmas, it'd be on Netflix. I should not have to pay to watch my team play on Netflix. So probably the only feasible way I'm going to be able to catch this game is if I listen to it on the radio. And I just don't know if I'm going to have time to do that. I'm going to be lucky if I can even get a quarter of this game because Christmas Day should just be about family, spending time with them. That's just what Christmas Day should be all about. Like I said, if Christmas was on a weekend and you put this game on Christmas, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But the fact it's on a Wednesday this year, I mean, come on, man. You got to be kidding me. Not to mention that, not to mention either that, again, after both Ravens games, we have a short week. Very unfair to the team right there, to a lot of these players that don't have that experience yet, having to come off a short week and having to go through adversity like that. Very unfair. So sorry, guys. As much as I want to say, yeah, we can beat Kansas City, just the fact that, A, we've never beaten Patrick Mahomes' Chiefs, and B, a lot of the guys are young on this team and they don't know how to handle short weeks like this. I'm going to say the Chiefs get us to fall to 10-6. I mean, what else is there to it? I mean, sure, the Raiders were able to beat the Chiefs last year on Christmas, but I don't know. I just go for experience more so for this one. Kansas City beats us to fall to 10-6. And then wrapping up the season. This is to be determined. If I had to guess when this game would be, just kind of looking at the calendar real quickly because it is week 18. And I would assume that it's going to probably be on January 5th. Because I would assume that it's going to be on January 5th. So at least we get damn near 2 weeks of rest. I could be wrong with the date, but if I had to guess, I would say it's January 5th. We are at home to play the Bengals in the season finale for us. A game that, if my record prediction holds up at 10-6, we could be battling for a playoff spot. So could the Bengals. And again, in contrast to the Ravens game, to make up for that, where we're on short week, both Bengals games, we're going to have considerable amounts of rest leading up to that. So at least we have a little bit of leeway for that, and we do have an advantage for that. So I'm going to say we sweep the Bengals to improve to 11-6. I like that, with both games for them, we have a considerable amount of rest. Unlike with the Ravens games, after both games with them, we have barely any time for rest. So I'm going to say we sweep the Bengals to improve to 11-6. So there you go right there, guys. That is my initial schedule prediction for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, if I had to give us a ceiling and a floor for right now, my ceiling for the Pittsburgh Steelers is, assuming everything goes right for us and everything, we win the games that can go either way, which I have 3 games on the schedule that can go either way for us. So if that happens and we win those games that can go either way, I think our ceiling is 14-3. I really do. Defense steps up. They stay healthy most of the year. The rookies that we drafted and the people that we got in the offseason step up, and Russell Wilson turns back the clock a few years and the offense improves, I think this team can win 14 games based on the schedule. The experience that we have playing against the division, the experience that Mike Tomlin has going up against some of these teams, 14 wins could be this team's ceiling. Now, with the games that can go 50-50, we could lose those games easily. Rookies show that they're just rookies and are going through bumps in the road. The players that we got in free agency turn out to be like, oh, that's why they got rid of them, because they were replaceable and we just picked up more scraps off the bones. Russell Wilson shows that he was indeed part of the problem in Denver, and he regresses again. Defense gets hurt some more, and just the teams all together figure out how to beat us. I think our ceiling, we are looking at about 6-11. So that's my ceiling and my floor with the Pittsburgh Steelers right there. But right now, I think I have us going 11-6, and we'll see what the second prediction has when when preseason comes around. But there you go, guys. That is my initial schedule prediction for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the 2024 NFL season upon looking at it for the first time. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And I am Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.